Would you like to guess how many books there are in these shelves? Well, the figure is 1,128, and each is about Abraham Lincoln. Had you realized that so many books had been written about him? Well, the actual fact is 5,000 books have been written about this man. That's a lot of words, you must admit. In comparison, this volume here is a small number. Yet in these 8 volumes are contained everything that has been preserved of Lincoln's own words, his every letter, his every speech, his every official report and document. Now, from these millions of words written about him, we have a fine, enduring picture of Abraham Lincoln. But here, where Lincoln speaks for himself, we have even a better picture. And that's what this entire program is about. Lincoln speaking for himself.
I was born February 12, 1809 in Hardin County, Kentucky. My parents were both born in Virginia of undistinguished families. My father removed to what is now Spencer County, Indiana, in my 8th year. It was a wild region with many bears and other wild animals still in the woods. There I grew up. There were some schools, but no qualification was required of a teacher beyond reading, writing, and ciphering to the rule of 3. I have not been to school since. The little advance I now have upon that store of education, I have picked up from time to time under the pressure of necessity. I was raised to farm work, which I continued till I was 22. Then I got to New Salem. At that time in Sangamon, where I remained a year as sort of a clerk in a store. And then came the Black Hawk War, and I was elected a captain of volunteers. A success which gave me more pleasure than any I've had since. I went to campaign, I was elated. I ran for the legislature the same year and was beaten. I studied law and removed to Springfield to practice. What I have done since then is pretty well known. If any personal description of me is thought desirable, it may be said, I am in height 6 feet 4 inches nearly, lean in flesh, weighing on an average 180 pounds, dark complexion with coarse black hair and gray eyes. No other marks or brands recollected. I can remember going to my little bedroom after hearing neighbors talk of an evening with my father and spending no small part of the night walking up and down and trying to make out what was the exact meaning of their dark sayings. I could not sleep when I had got on such a hunt after an idea until I had caught it. And when I thought I had got it, I was not satisfied until I put it into language plain enough for any boy I knew to comprehend. This was a kind of passion with me, and it has stuck by me. For I'm never easy now when I am handling a thought till I have bounded it north, bounded it south, bounded it east, and bounded it west.
Understand the exact meaning of a thought before he spoke about it, and to put it in words so plain and definite that his hearers would understand it just as well. This determination led to the Second Inaugural and to the Gettysburg Address. But these masterpieces of expression came after a lifetime of experience. Here we find Lincoln's first political speech, quite different, yet it still shows the measure of the man.
My politics are short and sweet, like the old woman's dance. I'm in favor of a national bank. I'm in favor of the internal improvement system at a high protective tariff. These are my sentiments and political principles. If elected, I shall be thankful. If not, it will be all the same. For the lawyer, as for the man of every other calling, is diligence. Leave nothing for tomorrow which can be done today. Discourage litigation. Persuade your neighbor to compromise whatever you can. As a peacemaker, a lawyer has a superior opportunity of being a good man. There will still be business enough. There is a vague popular belief that lawyers are necessarily dishonest. Let no young man choosing the law for a calling for a moment yield to this popular belief. Resolve to be honest at all events. And if, in your judgment, you cannot be an honest lawyer, resolve to be honest without being a lawyer.
To read some of the letters that Lincoln wrote to his law clients, one might say that here is a strange lawyer indeed.
I have just received yours of 16th with check for $25. You must think I am a high-priced man. $15 is enough for the job. I return to you a $10 bill. Yours truly, A. Lincoln. Mr. Hickox will go to Petersburg tomorrow for the purpose of meeting you to settle the difficulty about the wheat. If you settle, I will charge you nothing for what I have done and thank you to boot. By settling, you will most likely get your money sooner and with much less trouble and expense. Yours truly, A. Lincoln. At what point shall we expect the approach of danger? By what means shall we fortify against it? Shall we expect some transatlantic military giant to step the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined could not by force take a drink from the Ohio or make a track on the Blue Ridge. At what point, then, is the approach of danger to be expected? I answer, if it ever reaches, it must spring up among us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and its finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time, or die by suicide.
The Missouri Compromise, the Dred Scott decision, popular sovereignty. These are dead issues today, for the long debate on slavery has been settled for all time. But what Lincoln said in that debate still lives and will live forever.
What I do say is that no man is good enough to govern another man without that other's consent. I say this is the leading principle, the sheet anchor of American republicanism. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. They established these great self-evident truths that when in the distant future some man, some faction, some interest should set up a doctrine that none but rich men, none but white men, or none but Anglo-Saxon white men were entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, their posterity might look up again to the Declaration of Independence and take courage to renew the battle which their fathers began. This was their lofty and wise and noble understanding of the justice of the Creator to his creatures. Yes, gentlemen, to all his creatures, to the great family of man. What constitutes the bulwark of our liberty and independence? It is not our frowning battlements, the guns of our war steamers, or the strength of our army. Our defense is in the preservation of the spirit which prizes liberty as the heritage of all men, in all lands, everywhere. Destroy this spirit, and you have planted the seeds of despotism around your own doors. Familiarize yourself with the chains of bondage, and you are preparing your own limbs to wear them. Accustomed to trample on the rights of those around you, you have lost the genius of your independence and become the fit subject of the first cunning tyrant who rises. Let us have faith that right makes might. And in that faith, let us to the end dare to do our duty as we understand it.
It was words like these that brought Lincoln to the presidency. He didn't strive for it. In letter after letter, he wrote,
I must in candor say I do not think myself fit for the presidency. God selects his own instruments, and sometimes they are queer ones. For instance, he chose me to steer the ship through a great crisis.
I am a little girl, 11 years old. Have you any little girls about as large as I am? If you would let your whiskers grow, you would look a great deal better, as your face is so thin. Goodbye, Grace Bedell.
My dear little miss, your very agreeable letter is received. I regret the necessity of saying I have no daughter. I have 3 sons, one 17, one 9, and one 7 years of age. As to the whiskers, having never worn any, do you not think people would call it a silly piece of affectation if I were to begin now?
But Lincoln did take heed of the girl's advice, and the whiskers were beginning to grow as on February 11, 1861, he was about to depart for his first inaugural.
My friends, no one, not in my situation, can appreciate my feeling of sadness at this parting. To this place and the kindness of these people, I owe everything. Here I have lived a quarter of a century and have passed from a young to an old man. Here my children have been born, and one is buried. I now leave, not knowing when or whether ever I may return. with a task before me that is greater than that which rested on Washington. Without the assistance of that divine being, whoever attended him, I cannot succeed. With that assistance, I cannot fail. Trusting in him who can go with me and remain with you and be everywhere for good, let us confidently hope that all will yet be well, to his care commending you, as I hope in your prayers you will commend me. I bid you an affectionate farewell.
As the train stopped at the principal cities on its slow trip to Washington, the president made many speeches. At Indianapolis,
My reliance will be upon you and the people of the United States. Constantly bear in mind that not with politicians, not with presidents, not with office seekers, but with you is the question. Shall the Union and shall the liberties of this country be preserved to the latest generations? I have never had a feeling politically that did not spring from the sentiments embodied in the Declaration of Independence. I have often pondered over the dangers which were incurred by the men who assembled here and framed that declaration. I have pondered over the toils that were endured by the officers and soldiers of the Army who achieved that independence. I have often inquired of myself what great principle or idea it was that kept this Confederacy so long together. It was not the mere matter of separation of the colonies from the motherland, but that sentiment in the Declaration of Independence which gave liberty not alone to the people of this country, but hope to the world for all future time. If the almighty ruler of nations with his eternal truth and justice be on your side of the north or on yours of the south, that truth and that justice will surely prevail by the judgment of this great tribunal of the American people. By the frame of the government under which we live, this same people have wisely given their public servants but little power for mischief, and have with equal wisdom provided for the return of that little to their own hands at very short intervals. While the people retain their virtue and vigilance, no administration by any extreme of wickedness or folly can very seriously injure the government.
yet war came. But even in the press of war, Abraham Lincoln never lost his faith in God.
If he has a place and work for me, I believe I am ready. Douglas doesn't care whether slavery is voted up or voted down. But God cares. And humanity cares. And I care. And with God's help, I shall not fail. I am nothing. But truth is everything. I know I am right because I know that liberty is right. For Christ teaches it, and Christ is God. I have told them that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And Christ and reason say the same. And they will find it so. With malice toward none. With charity for all. With firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in. To bind up the nation's wounds. To care for him who shall have borne the battle. And for his widow and his orphan. To do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace with ourselves and with all nations.
The Gettysburg Address came about in a strange way. As everyone knows, it was at the dedication of a cemetery for the men who had fallen in battle. But the Board of Commissioners met and did not invite the president. I mean, with his reputation for Western humor, they doubted whether he could be trusted to speak appropriately at such a grave and solemn occasion. Instead, they selected the greatest orator in America, Edward Everett, former president of Harvard, governor of Massachusetts, United States Senator, and Secretary of State. The board was therefore horrified when they received a letter from the president accepting their invitation. Well, upon investigation, they found out that the clerk had included the president's name on the list of invitations which were sent out of courtesy. They'd been mailed to the members of Congress and to other government officials. Now, the board was in a quandary. But out of respect to the office of president, they must at least ask Lincoln to say something.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here. But it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us. That from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. I have said nothing but what I am willing to live by, and if it be the pleasure of Almighty God, to die by.
This program, Lincoln Speaks for Himself, was brought to you by the Christophers. And it's my privilege now to present to you the founder of this great movement, Father James Keller. Father?
Thank you, Danny, very much. Friends, the reason we did this film on Abraham Lincoln is because the Christophers have for its objective to emphasize what one person can do with God's help to change the world for the better. And certainly, Lincoln is an outstanding example of what one individual can do against great handicaps, despite all sorts of hardships. He helped you, he helped me, he helped the world. In the Christophers, we have no organization, no memberships, no meetings, no dues. We try to encourage you to do what you can. We supply literature, Christopher News Notes once a month for anybody that wishes them, free of charge. We send them to 1 million people now. You may have them without any cost by simply sending a postcard to the Christophers, New York, 17 New York. Thank you, and God bless you.